Hi everybody, welcome. It's Thursday night. It's time to sew. I hope everyone is doing well. So, what are we going to do tonight? Serger Quickie Quilt. It's done pretty much entirely on a serger. The only thing I did on a sewing machine on this one was sew the binding on because, well, you know me and bindings. I'm a little picky with my bindings. I don't like them. I like them just so. That's my picky thing. But this is what the front looks like, and you can see it. What we're doing is a lap size, and this is what the back looks like. It's a quilt-as-you-go technique, and your quilt is a reversible quilt, totally reversible quilt, so that's what makes it nice. And you don't have to do any free motion quilting unless you want to. I might end up putting some on the border. So let's talk about what you need for it. So let me put this down over there. Okay, so how you pick your fabrics. What you're going to need is you're going to need 5 different fabrics for the center. I'm talking about that center Bargello looking thing. So you need 5 different colors. You need a good variety of light, mediums, and darks, and we'll talk a little bit about how can you tell what is light and what isn't, and what is medium and what is dark. If you've ever caught my class on color theory, then you just have to realize that color is not as important as intensity. In other words, the dark, medium, and the light is more important than the color otherwise. And if you don't have a good mix of dark, medium, and light, your quilt is kind of bland. So now one thing I have to say is 80% of all fabric that's in the stores is of a medium intensity, and especially if you're dealing with those collections. It's hard to find good dark fabric, and it's hard to find good light fabric. So almost everything is dark, is medium. So how do you figure what you want? what you need? Let me get. I have the supply list if you want me to email a copy of the supply list to you and what you need to cut for it. Then send me an email at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. That's WALTZQUILT, and I'll send you the supply list. So what you do is you need 5 fabrics for the center section. So you need about a yard, maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of a yard of each of the 5 different basic fabrics. You're going to need a fabric for your front border, which is about a yard, and another 1/8 yards for the back border, so the border on the back. And you're going to need about 2/3 of a yard for the binding. And you're going to need cotton batting. Do not use polyester batting. You want to use 100% cotton batting. You don't want to use polyester. It slides around too much. You're going to be dealing with a lot of thicknesses of fabric, so you don't want to be fooling around with something that's going to slide on you, because you're going to be aggravated enough if if things don't go well. You're going to be really aggravated with polyester. To me, polyester should only be used 2 times when you're making the trapunto, and we're going to have a class next month on trapunto. And the other time that you use it is if you have a long arm. A long arm, you can use it because everything is sort of secured down and it doesn't slide around. Okay, so anyway, you're going to need about 2 bats that are 45 inches by 60 inches. Okay, so the first thing, how to pick your fabric. Again, we're going to talk about small, medium, and small, light, dark, and medium. And like I said, intensity is more important than anything else. Okay, here's the fabrics I picked. And this is going to end up being a baby quilt because one of my best friends has got her, I think her first grandchild is coming up, so I'm excited for her. So here's what I picked for the front border. And this is for the back border. And I'm going to put those aside for now because I don't care. But, wait, I'm going to leave them there. Okay, how I chose my fabrics. The easiest way is pick your border first. Because I picked the border and then I went from there. Why? Because these people who do this fabric know all about this color theory. Because that's confusing. color wheels and tetrarchal and monochrome and all those things can give you a headache. So these people get paid big bucks to come up with these colors. They're artists and they study this stuff in school. So what I did was, this is the one I chose as my focus fabric, or this one. These are actually from the same line. These are Quilting Treasures fabric. They were part of our short bolt sale. So I like those. I think that would make a cute purse. Okay, so I picked an orange. I picked, well, that one, which is in there. I picked this purple here. There's yellow from there. And then there's the turquoise from there. Okay, so that's easy to do. And then after I finished it, I realized, I went to my color wheel and I realized that this is called, and I looked it up, this is called a I can't remember say it now, four-sided color scheme. So in other words, these are all, they're essentially two complements. We were always taught that color, on the color wheel, what is opposite is good together. So these are actually opposite and 90 degrees over. So each color is equal spaced around there. So I didn't know it, but I have my orange. Where is it? I'm going to put there we go, orange. And then there's the wrong orange. There's the orange. Yeah, here we go. There's the right orange. There's orange. There's my turquoise right here. Then on this side, there's the purple. And there's the yellow. And I have come up with a very complicated color scheme and didn't even know it. Okay? We're going to make a strip set. So you're going to cut each of the 5 fabrics, and I'll just put these aside for now because it's my borders. Actually, you're going to cut for your borders. On the front border, you're going to cut, if you're doing a lap size or a baby quilt, because they're both about the same, you're going to need 6 strips. So you're going to cut these 6 inches wide by the whole length of the fabric. Okay. For the back border, we need it a little bit wider, so we do it 6.5 inches times the length of the fabric, and you need 6 of those. And it'll be on the PDF form that if you want one. If not, you can rewind it. I'm going to say everything that's in here throughout the class. Then of each of the 5 fabrics, you're going to cut 2 6-inch wide by the width of the fabric, and you're going to cut 3 4 inches wide times the width of the fabric. Then same thing for all 5 of them. Then you have to decide, then everything's cut for that. And then if you're going to cut, you don't have to cut your batting right now, but if you're going to cut your batting, you're going to need 10 of them that are 4 inches wide times 60 inches long, and then 6.5 inches wide and you need 4 of those by the width of the batting. I usually don't cut the batting until after I've got the front part done. So now the next decision you got to make is, how do these go? You sort of want to put them in order and however you might like them. And this is what I came up with. Now, we were talking about light, medium, and dark intensities, because I look at this and think, here's my light, here's my yellow. Yellow is always light. Yellow is an eye grabber. It'll literally steal the show if you use too much yellow. So don't use too much yellow, because you end up, people will look at it and go, oh, it's a yellow quilt, no matter how much. So you don't use about 10 to 20, no more than 25% of your quilt should be yellow, because it's just too bright, too attention getting. Use it sparingly. So I'd say, and yellow, no matter how dark you think of it as a yellow, it always comes out as a light. It's always a light. So this is a light, this is a light. I would say this is, and intensity is relative. To me, this looks like a medium. This looks like a medium, and this looks like a medium, and the only dark I really have is the border. But if you're not sure of the intensity, take the colors over to a Xerox machine, or take a picture of it on your camera, because your camera is going to give you grayscale, because now look at how different they look. Okay, that is almost a light. Okay, this one definitely is a light. This one now isn't, it's a dark. Look how dark it is compared to the other ones. The yellow is super bright. It almost looks white on here. And then the orange is actually a medium. Okay, so this is the order I've decided to put mine in. So the next thing we need to do is to make a strip set. Some people also call it a strata. So what we're going to do is we are going to sew these together, 6-inch pieces together. These, I'm just going to leave these so if I forget what order I'm sewing them, then this will remind me. Okay, so I'm going to sew a strip set or a strata, whatever you want to call it. I've heard. Okay, so you're going to sew one to the other from selvage to selvage, from one end to the other. Always start at one end, and I tend to take my whitest piece of the selvage and start there. So I'm always going to sew this one to this one. We'll set up the machine in a minute, and I have to apologize for my machine. It sounds like a Mack truck. It's got to go into the store, into service, and I forgot to bring it last Saturday. It doesn't sound good. So I would start sewing from here, always from the selvage edge. Always sew from one end to the other, because if you go back and forth, you'll notice that the other end, there is no two bolts of fabric that have the same, that are as wide, that are the same width. They're all different. So I don't want to have to, and then it's hard to straighten it out. So I'm going to do 2 sets of these with my 6-inch strips. So I am going to set up the serger. So what I'm going to do is start sewing them together. And I'm going to sew them in the order that I selected. So the first one is the blue floral, or turquoise. And I have set up my machine for a 4-thread overlock. Now if you don't have a serger, you can do this on your sewing machine, but I would recommend using a walking foot. This is a very forgiving quilt, so if you haven't cut everything exactly perfect, it's okay. It's very forgiving. Okay, so the next one is the yellow. Turn it on. Okay, so what you want to do is set it up for a 4-thread overlock. So I'm using 2 of the overlock needles and 2 loopers, so which is my upper looper and the lower looper. I have set my stitch width at about 2, and here's the stitch width right here on the baby lock. I have my blade width at its narrowest, so it's at 5.5, and my blade is engaged. You will know you have the blade engaged if when you look at this it does not say lock. And my stitch selector, which is on this side of the machine, is on A, because I'm using 2 overlock needles. And my differential feed over here is at neutral. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back into the old videos on Sew Easy Sewing, sort of really early, and because I've got all the guide classes to this machine there. Okay, so I'm not going to use any pins, and I'm going to put this more towards me. And I apologize for the noise, because it is noisy. I want to cut evenly, but I barely want to cut anything at all. You just let the feed dogs do their work. You don't try to pull or push it through. Okay. And I'll cut this. Okay. Now I'll come back to here to the same spot where I started, and I will put the next color on, which is the purple or plum or whatever you want to call it. This one does have a big wide white selvage, so I'm going to start that at the top. And if I had to, I could just take this over to the sewing machine and do the same thing. Okay, and we've got 2 more to go. And I think the polka dotted one, the white polka dot, is next. And it has 2 white selvages, but I'll just pick one. The first one might take you a little bit of time, but once you get this first one, you really can't. I've done a king-size quilt in a weekend. This is actually my favorite quilt to make for my husband because it's not so fussy that you're not taking months and months to make this quilt, and you're not having to spend hours quilting, so therefore I don't get upset if dogs are on it or cats are on it or he spills coffee. It's okay. This is a made-to-use quilt. But a reason I like to do it on the Serger, because the Serger goes much faster than my sewing machine. Okay, and now for the last one, and this is the last one. Okay, now at this point I would probably stop and press, and I would press them all towards the last one that you did. So I would press, first of all, if you're not familiar, you're going to press it flat, and then you're going to press it towards the bottom of the strata. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is that we need to join the first set that I made. Let's see. Here's the first set that I made. Actually, this is the second one. There we go. And here's the white selvage edge. Okay. And I'm going to join the top to the bottom of the last one. So they're going to be, okay, here's the selvage edge of the last one I just did to the first one here. See, I'm putting the 2 together, and it's going to make and I'm going to sew both sides together. So an orange and a blue and an orange and blue. I'm going to sew this side and then this side, and it's going to make a great big tube. And I'll show you what we do with them. Okay, and now for the very last seam, we sew the other end. I know it's not the most perfect of seaming, but it's okay. Like I said, this is a very forgiving quilt. Okay, while I have the sewing machine up here, now I've made a big tube, but the next sewing that I have to do are these short bits. Okay, the little 4-inch ones. These are going to get sewn exactly in the same order that they were before. And I'll grab these since they're... And you're going to make a long strip set out of this, but you're going to sew them the same way, but end to end. So we take and put them this way, and you're going to cut the short end off. You just want to, and just put the edge of the selvage right there at the edge of the blade. It'll cut it for you. Okay, and then the number 2, what color's after? Don't remember. So when you can't remember what color's next, always look at your original piece. Okay, a blue, yellow, then purple. You want these to go together in the same way. There's a purple. And then I'll show you what we do with these. These are going to be the backs. Purple to the blue, then, and cut the selvage off. And the last one is orange. I usually do one set at a time because ultimately this orange would get sewn to a blue, but it gets to be too much to handle, so I do 3 sets of this. Okay, because then what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of the last number 5, fabric number 5, and start to roll it up. And we roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll. And usually I'll press this as I go along. Again, I'm going to press towards the last one. So here's the last one I did, so I will just press it. I'm just going to finger press it now, which means I just scratch it. Keep rolling. This is the boring part. Well, boring to watch, that's for sure. Okay, here's another one. And I'll clip threads and press towards the bottom. So let me see, that's wanting to go. I may press these better afterwards between classes, because if you press as you go along, it makes life a lot easier, and you don't have as much to do at the end, and that contributes to better accuracy. Okay, so press that, continue rolling. Okay. We have a roll. Okay, so now when we finish using this roll, we will attach whatever's left of it, the orange, to the top of another white. So you would have 3 sets of these things, and I tend to just pin them together so they don't come unpinned when Lily decides to play with them. Okay, and I set that aside. Okay, and I will do that 3 times. Okay, now to make the front strata, and this is where we will stop for the day after we're done with this. So I'm going to put this machine down out of our way. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, once we've pressed it, you would press all those seams going towards the bottom color, or towards the orange. Okay? Because now, and I'm just going to leave these inside out for now. Okay? So, let me get glasses and all this stuff out of the way. I don't want to, because now we're going to get the rotary cutter, and now we're going to cut. Okay. So we start at one end. You want to put this on a cutting table, and next week we will move to the downstairs cutting table so we have more room to work with, because this is kind of cramped in here. Let me get this out of here. And the cord. Because you want to straighten this out, so you may have to do some pulling of the fabric so that they go nice and straight. Okay. Now we're going to cut this double strata into 4-inch pieces. So I need a big ruler. Okay. I needed the bigger ruler. Okay, so, and a nice sharp blade. And even that's not, well, I'm going to make it a little shorter. I know that it's fairly straight, so I'm going to bring this up to here, nice and straight. I'm going to cut off these selvage edges. Now, you have to be very careful when you're cutting this, so you're going to want to keep triangulating on these 90-degree things. So, you're going to pick a seam, or the bottom of a seam. You're going to make sure the line goes straight along with it. Then this should be straight. If this is straight, these lines should be straight, so should those. So now I'm going to cut. And I love these creative grade rulers. Okay. Alrighty. Then I'm going to cut 4 inches. Now I could turn this all around, but I'm not gonna. I want to cut, I want to cut this into 4-inch pieces. So what I'm going to do is put this 4 inches from here. I'm going to put this right beside it, and I'm going to again check a line. And then I'm going to cut. Okay. Same thing. I'll cut a few of these. I'll do like 3 of them. Okay. And again, I'm checking to see that I'm still perpendicular. And I'll do one more. You're going to end up with like 10 of these. Okay, and it's still straight. Okay. Then usually I don't cut more than 3 without checking these now and re-straightening out this part. But I'm only going to cut 3 for now, because then you're going to take a little notepad and pins, because now we're going to start to set up these. So, in my original, the turquoise was my first color, the yellow is my second color. This turquoise is always going to stay my first color, at least on this first piece. This is piece number 1. So at this point, I'm going to unsew this seam. Where's the seam ripper? You think, I'm going to be here all day. The easiest way to remove the seam, okay, is like this. Okay. You have, I had lost a needle thread here. Oh, it's okay. I'm going to pick the needle threads, which are the ones that look like train tracks. And I'm going to pull that thread out. See, it just goes this way, and then the rest of the thread just pulls away. Okay? Now this first piece, I'm going to mark this as a 1. And pin it in and mark this as number 1. Okay, 1. Okay, now for number 2 and each one that you're doing successively. Okay, so you take your next strip. Find the blue then the yellow. Okay, put it beside it so that these all match. See, all that's going to match. This is going to be number 2, and number 2 is going to what they call drop it down a half. So in other words, I'm going to take this and go halfway. So how you do that, and this one's easy. You put your seams together. Okay. And you want to roll you don't want to roll these up. You want to roll up those end pieces, the back pieces like we did before, because look, they look the same, so you don't want to get them mixed up. So put the 2 seams together, and before I cut, I check, so I even out the tops, and it should be going down by 1/2 increment. Scissors. And then I just take my fabric shears and cut it in half. Mark this one number 2. Where did I put those notepads there? And a 2. That here. This is a number 2, and I'll just pin it on for now. Okay, so now I have 1 and 2. Get over there. Okay, then I'm going to take my 3rd strip. Where did it go? I know I cut 3. Here it is, right in front of me. Okay, I'm going to go back to my blue-yellow. Okay, I'm now going to match this number 2. So it was a half. See how that matches? It's exactly, if you put this backwards, and it's easy to do, see, they don't match. You want them to match. Okay, once it matches, you drop down to a hole. And this is another one where we're going to remove the seam. And we do have 2. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the 2 straight stitches, and if you can't see, like your looper stitches go this way, but your needle stitches go this way. They look like train tracks. Remove these 2 needle stitches. Can you see that? Yeah, you want to remove these 2, the ones that look like train tracks. And now I forgot which ones I was taking apart. This one, okay. Okay, and then I'm just taking my seam ripper and I'm just taking, no, isn't it? Because that's the wrong side. Here we go. I want to look for the ones that, here we go. You can see they look like train tracks. So I want to pull. I can only pull one at a time. Pull that out. And again over here, the other train track one, and all the threads come away. Real easy. Okay, so now this becomes number 3. Okay, and I would mark, don't need that one anymore, 3, and pin this to this one. You're going to do this and continue on until you have, I've got too much here, until you have 10 of these. Okay, so what I usually do is I'll pin them on my curtains. They'll probably go across both sets of curtains. Just the way, in fact, I'll pin them up here. You can look at my mess. Where's the curtains? Can Can't see. There's a light. There's the curtains. You couldn't see them. Okay. And this now will give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Pin this here. I don't have a design wall in here. I would love one, but I can't be tearing walls down. He won't let me do that. And 3. And see, now that kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. Let me stand back. Let me see. So it gives you an idea what it's going to look like. So it's going to give you that sort of Bargello look to it. It's not a true Bargello, but it's, you know, it's close, and it really gives a cute effect. So, any questions at all? So your homework, okay? Send me an email and I will send you the cutting instructions on how to cut the pieces. And then, in fact, I'll probably send you the whole total instructions on how to do it so that you can do that at home. So what I want you to do this week, so I want you to select your fabrics, cut them into the 6-inch and the 4-inch strips, put your strip set together, the strata for the front, and then put the back end to end. Just keep rolling them up, rolling them up. Next week we start putting it together. So for next week, so your homework is to just have your strips all numbered and ready to go, and your back all ready to go, and you're going to need to cut several strips of your batting. So you're going to need 4-inch strips of batting for next week. So cut your cotton batting into 4 inches by however long, because this is also a good way to use up your scraps of batting, because 9 times out of 10, especially if you send your quilt to a long armor, they always send back a good chunk of it. But what are you going to do with this much batting? Usually nothing, right? You'd have to splice it together to use it. Those are perfect for using in this kind of quilt, because you're going to need those 4- and 6-inch strips to complete it. You don't have to sew them together. You're going to see on the back, we're just going to layer them one on top of the other, overlap them a little bit, and it's going to be beautiful. And I've never had any trouble. My husband's worn out the fabric before he's worn out the batting on these. He's now on his 3rd Serger quilt in almost 20 years, and these are his favorite. So I have one that was so threadbare, oh my God, could see through it, but he wouldn't give it up. When he went away, it disappeared. You know, when he went on a trip, it disappeared. The cat took it, I think. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email. Tell me that you want the pattern. I will send it to you, and I will see you next week when we will start to assemble it. So next week we'll assemble that center section, and the 3rd week we'll do the borders. And maybe I'll show you the binding if we have time. Okay? So I guess that's all I've got for you. Have a good weekend, and stay safe and stay healthy, and keep on sewing, and bye.